Hey guys, welcome to my channel, and here I'm going to talk about something that a lot of musicians don't think about, why you should think of yourself as an athlete. And I know that must be like, what do you mean, think of myself as an athlete? I play an instrument, I'm a piano player, I'm a saxophone player, I'm a singer. I don't go out and lift weights, and I don't run marathons. But no, you don't do that. You actually do run different kinds of marathons. You run marathons on your instrument. So you're being in a compromised state in a high stress situation and putting your body through a lot of physical load over many hours. And so you do need to think of yourself as an athlete. If you're not finding a ways to rest and recover, fuel properly, and even hydrate properly, you're going to lose a lot of gains in the practice room, but then also you're going to lose a lot of ways that you can perform properly. So think about if you're a saxophone player, which I am, you have these fine motor movements, and if you can see how my elbow here just moving, you see all of that. You see that? That's just from moving my fingers right here. And so you'll see that how you are using your muscles, you're using your tendons. And then in also instruments aren't actually created for humans. How weird is that? Instruments are actually made to be the instrument itself, and then we compromise ourselves by putting ourselves in positions for long hours that weren't naturally made to be that way. And so when we're in that state for long hours, our bodies start to overcompensate and really get into a bad position. And then that's how you can get injuries over time or minor aches and pains. Let's think of the easiest instrument that I can think of right now as an instrument that puts you in a compromised state, the violin. Think about how you have the violin here and your neck is crooked. And if you're like this for hours and hours on a time, your position here on this neck and then your neck here is in a compromised state for many hours. So you need to find ways to make sure that you're overcompensating in the opposite direction for long-term health. The reason why I'm saying you should think of yourself as an athlete is that I've been reading and working out for many years, and I'm continually learning about health and fitness, and I'm realizing the more and more I learn about this, the more I believe that musicians need to think of themselves as athletes. And so here are some simple basics, some 5 basic things that you can do to incorporate in your life to help with your long-term health as a musician. So let's start with number 1. The number one most important thing you got to do is make sure you are hydrated. I know a lot of times people talk about the 8 glasses a day and then this and that, and you don't know how much water. You just need to make sure you're drinking water. Really, the easiest way to know if you're hydrated enough is TMI, or if you're grossed out by this, is by the color of your urine. If it's really, really, really dark, that means you are extremely dehydrated, and actually it will take you time to rehydrate if that is really dark. So you want to stay relatively clear to a light yellowish. I know this is kind of a weird thing to talk about as a musician, but that is kind of the easiest way to know if you're well hydrated. You can drink between 64 ounces to a gallon, depending on how active you are. The more active you are, the more you sweat, the more you have to make sure you stay hydrated. And why do you want to stay hydrated? Well, there's tons of studies that just show that each percentage drop that you have of hydration means a drop of things that you are unable to do. So a 1% drop, it can affect your heart rate, your mood. At 2%, it can affect your reaction time, your focus, and 3%, 4%, so on and so forth. There's more things that are detrimental. And so if you're using your body and you're sweating in the practice room or on stage, you want to make sure that you're replenishing those fluids after a practice session, during a practice session, during a performance, because it will affect your ability to perform at the highest level that you can. So I carry around a gigantic water jug. This is a 64-ounce water jug. So for me, I drink 1 to 2 of these a day. More likely 1.5 to make sure that I'm fully hydrated. And so I'm just sipping on it throughout the day. so to make sure that I'm fully hydrated so that I can show up and perform at my best. So the second thing is diet. And there's so many different opinions out there about what diet you should follow: vegan, carnivore, keto, paleo, vegetarian, so on and so forth. There's thousands of different ideas of what diet is. But one of the things that is basically a hallmark of what you should have as a staple in your diet is plant foods. Basically, the reason why you want to have a plant predominant diet is that plants are high in antioxidants. They're extremely high in antioxidants, and the reason why you want to have antioxidants is that they're super anti-inflammatory. If you're practicing, if you're putting a lot of stress on your body, on your mind, you want to make sure that you're bringing down that inflammation as much as you can. And some of the things that I like to incorporate in my diet that is anti-inflammatory is dark leafy greens, berries, and then ginger and turmeric. And so I try to incorporate those things every day. And actually, the easiest way that I do it is I just shove it all in a smoothie and then drink it. It's super tasty, super easy. You don't have to think about it. You just put all those in there, and then I just drink it throughout the day. So that is another thing to think about, is incorporating more plant foods in your diet. One other thing is omega-3s. Omega-3s is a really important fat for brain health, and the way you can get omega-3s is you can get it through chia seeds, flax seeds, or an algae-based omega-3 oil. So that's another way to incorporate that to make sure that you're getting your omega-3s, which also help bring down inflammation. So the third tip is, depending on how long your practice session is, the longer it is, the more likely you want to do some sort of warm-up routine. Every athlete does a warm-up routine before they do something that is arduous, especially if it's a performance. Your body needs to warm up to get used to the physical load that you're about to put on it. And when you're about to do a performance, your anxiety is high, your tension is high, and your heart rate is probably pumping really strong and really high. And so you want to make sure that you warm up your body so that you can warm up your tendons, warm up the blood, warm up the muscles, and kind of get the blood flowing, and so that you can loosen up your fingers. So doing some sort of, if you're a saxophone player, you can do like wrist extensions, do some arm circles. Those are some things. And like look up something online to do, like Google like good warm-up routines for musicians, just so that you can really get your body and your mind prepared for whatever you're going to go head into. So if you're going into a long practice session, being sure that your body's warmed up. If you're going into a performance session, being sure that your body and your mind is warmed up for that. And the opposite end of the warm-up is actually the cool down. So I had a lot of friends that were brass instrumentalists, and that was one thing that they made sure that they did was cooling down, because you want to make sure that after you do something that is pretty physically arduous, you want to make sure that you're bringing your body back down. And there's actually a thing that you want to think about, is the difference between the parasympathetic and the sympathetic system. When you're in a sympathetic state, that means you're kind of in fight or flight mode. Your tension is high, your anxiety is high, and if you stay in that state for too long, that can keep you in a state of anxiety and tension and tightness. And the more you stay in that state, the more likelihood that you might injure yourself later down the line. And so you want to bring yourself to the parasympathetic state. So post practice, especially if it's a really stressful practice, you weren't happy with how it went, or a really stressful performance, you want to do some sort of breathing to kind of bring yourself back down. Maybe take a couple minutes to shut your eyes and just recenter yourself so that you can calm yourself from this sympathetic state and bring yourself down to a parasympathetic state. And this is also just good to kind of do in general, to kind of check how your body's feeling throughout the day, because you go in between this state throughout the day, and you don't want to be in this flight or flight, high stress, sympathetic state for too long, because that's how your body will overcompensate, and you'll have tension in your shoulders, tension in your arms, tension in your lower back. So you want to make sure that you are finding a way to recover after a long or hard performance session. A fourth thing to think about is including some sort of mobility routine. You want to make sure that you're doing something every day. This is something I do. I make sure I have I have my own mobility routine that I do daily, because when you are playing your instrument, when you are sitting down for long hours at a time, your body starts to overcompensate. Your body is extremely intelligent, and it knows that if it's going to be in a certain state for a long time, it starts to overcompensate. And so other parts of your body start getting a little tighter, it starts getting a little shorter. And so you might need to lengthen that so that it makes sure that you're not just kind of shrinking in a certain way. So doing some sort of mobility routine of doing some hand stretches, doing some couch stretches, doing some bends. But you want to make sure that the reason you include the mobility routine, which is separate from your warm up and your cool down, is that you want to make sure that you're keeping your body as open as possible and not get tight. You know, I play the saxophone, which puts my hands up in this position, and so it's easy for your shoulders to start rolling forward, and then you'll start feeling tension in your shoulders here. And so you want to make sure maybe you're doing some sort of routine to counteract that. So do some stretches or mobility doing back that way. So think about incorporating a mobility routine into your daily activities. And it doesn't have to be long. It doesn't have to be a 30-minute routine. It can just be 5 to 10 minutes. If you're just maybe watching a show, stand up and do some sort of mobility routine while you're watching the show. Little over time is better than super long and never doing it. And now the fifth and final thing is rest and recovery. This is where all the magic happens. If you look up any sort of bodybuilding thing or workout thing, sleep and recovery is actually where your muscle builds. And it's the same thing for musicians. Sleep and recovery is where your brain will take from the conscious of what you worked on and take it to the subconscious, and will help you remember whatever thing you're doing. So if you're not getting an appropriate amount of rest and recovery, making sure you're getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep, making sure you're doing some sort of recovery program of meditation, journaling, reading, or just overall relaxation, that maybe you can just go on walks. This is where all the hard work goes into your system. This is where all the hard work pays off. You have to do the hard work and do the effort, but if you don't actually give yourself that time to recover from it, then that can lead to burnout, that can lead to injuries, that can lead to over practicing and not actually moving in the needle and making any sort of progress. And so you want to make sure that you have some sort of recovery routine so that you can come back the next day stronger and better than before. So this is just kind of like a quick video, just getting some quick pointers out there, and hopefully maybe one of these kind of spoke to you and it makes you think about a little differently on how you want to approach your music career or your musicianship. Just because you're not an athlete doesn't mean you shouldn't think of yourself as one. There's a lot of fine motor movements, consistent motor movements, and there is evidence out there that musicians do injure themselves, and it's not as uncommon as you'd think. And it really doesn't have to do with, playing with improper technique or that thing like that. Sometimes it's just a long string of overuse and not being mindful of listening to your body, that you might need to recover, sleep better, rest and recover. You want to make sure you have some sort of mobility. You want to make sure you have some sort of good diet of where you're getting some antioxidants in there, get some hydration, and have some sort of warm up and cool down. So if you want to tell me down in the comments below what you think, if this is what you felt spoke to you, and if there's any other kind of topics around this area you'd like me to talk about. I really enjoy learning more about health and fitness, and how about the health of the musician along with the performance of the musician. If you like what you're seeing, hit that subscribe button. I got more videos coming up in the future. Hit that like button and check out this next video, and we'll see you next time.